This is a TalkStation original podcast.
This is Marlin Masters, a brand new podcast from the Carteret County News-Times, where we hear from the renowned captains of the Big Rock Blue Marlin Tournament. We talk about how they got their start, the big fish they've caught, and the ones that got away. This episode with Thomas Wood of Dancin Outlaw is brought to you by Sanitary Restaurant in Morehead City, where the Big Rock began.
We're here today with Thomas Wood of Dancin Outlaw, 1999 Big Rock winner, 600-pound fish, finished third in 2006, a top 3 release boat in Big Rock year after year. Safe to say, you've been doing this for a while, you've been pretty good at it for a while.
Been at it for a long time. This actually would be my 30th tournament in a row, which, as I joke around and say too, I've also lost it a lot of times. but we've been fortunate enough. Tournament's been really, really good to me.
Yeah, yeah. It's a special thing, Big Rock Week. We're sitting here the week before KWLA starts, the week before Big Rock. What's it like coming into that week? Is there a little bit of apprehension? Are you kind of feeling the excitement?
There is. Yeah, a lot of excitement build up. It's all Super Bowl, all Christmas, everything. But the closer you get, your mind, like today and tomorrow, you're racing. Do I got everything ready? Something else I should do? What else do I need to buy? And then, it's like I say, you look forward all year, but sometimes the week you're ready for it to be over, but then again you're looking forward to the year after next.
Well, that was my next question too. Is there anything in particular that you do in that lead up to the tournament to prepare?
No. Yes, there is. We have a game plan. We make sure mainly tackle and boat prep. You make sure all your lines new, your hooks are sharp, what needs replaced is replaced, any equipment you need. You should have already got, because make sure you don't want to rely on buying something at the tackle store last minute.
Right. You are on Dancin Outlaw number 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is not your first boat here. You started with a 34-footer back in what year?
I think she was built in '94. It was a Jarrett Bay 34-foot express boat we built new at Jarrett Bay when they were still in Marshallburg.
Wow. And that's a JB?
It was a Jarrett Bay, hull number 17.
That's right. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And then you had the next one was
one was an older Jarrett Bay, actually hull number 2 we had purchased and refurbished.
And that's a 45-footer.
45-footer. Mm-hmm.
And now the one you're on, you've been on since 2002.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And who built that one?
A guy by the name of Jim Luxton and Damon Cole. Jim was formerly with Jarrett Bay, and after he left Jarrett Bay, he built boats for 3 or 4 years, and we built one.
So you've been, and now this one's 54-footer.
56.
56, okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, the name Dancin Outlaw I've always enjoyed, because you see hundreds of names every year. Tell me about who Jesco White is. That's a name I picked up online, and I got to know.
Jesco was a hillbilly dancer, still thriving, from southern West Virginia. And when I was in college, they made a documentary about him called The Dancin Outlaw. A guy by the name of Jacob Young done a really, really good documentary that captured him. And I was actually partners on the first Jarrett Bay boat I built with my brother, and that was really the only name we could decide on. Might have been a few beers involved that night.
Yeah, I read that you tried to think of you couldn't decide on a girl's name.
Right. We could not come up with the girl's name without getting somebody.
And then saw the documentary and said, there you go, we got it.
And so that's it, and it's stuck.
Yeah.
And it's been iconic over the years. And the original. So, used to be everybody sort of got it. Now everybody sort of scratches their head, and some people, but
It's a fun boat name for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. How you mentioned West Virginia? How does a West Virginia boy find himself at the Crystal Coast and becoming a charter boat captain?
I have to ask myself that a lot now, but it's funny. I grew up. We take family vacations to Wrightsville Beach, and we always went on a charter boat down there. A guy named Rock Brown, and I just, as a very young child, thought that was the greatest thing in the world to be a charter boat captain for some reason, and that was always back in my head was my dream. And one thing led to the other, and I came down here and was going to try it for a few years, and a few years turned into 30. Wow. So I've had a real supporting wife over the time that always had a good job and everything, so I could be a charter.
Well, and
They're very
there's
supportive behind me, but I've been blessed. Charter boating and the whole industry's been very good to me and my family.
it's a you talk about having some support at home. It's a time commitment to do what you do.
It is. I mean, it's a lifestyle, and it's the fun part is the fishing part. The behind the scenes is very tiring.
And go to bed at about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night.
8 o'clock. You up every morning at 4:15 to 4. Is the days and back when we were doing it hardcore full time. I mean, you booked every day. You don't necessarily win every day because of the weather, but I was talking to one of the local charter boats last night. I mean, I think he's on day 18 in a row, and you just see it in your eyes. It's
Wow.
tough way to make a living.
And you had Zach and I, or I did at least, Frank Wood and Katie Wood. You had some athletes at East Carteret. I bet there was a ball game you had to duck out of, didn't you?
Well, I was fortunate enough. I missed very, very few.
Okay.
I know what it's like not to have your parents come to the games, and that was not going to happen to my kids. I can remember a bunch of nights finishing up at Southwest Onslow, getting home at 2 o'clock and thinking I was going to sleep, and went up and fished the next day.
Wow.
But
But to have both, man, that's a win right there.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and it was great.
Yeah. I'm curious, you said you've been doing this for 30 years, so what, 94 would be your first Big Rock?
94, yeah.
So 5 years later, you've only been doing it for 5 years, and you get the win. You get to back into that weigh station down to the old one downtown.
Yeah.
And with a 600-pounder. Can you tell me a little bit about that fish?
I don't, it's funny looking back. We had a super good crew on that boat. It was just more or less we had got a crew together and fished 4 or 5 tournaments, and we were lucky enough. I think we won the Ducks Unlimited with that crew maybe in 95 or 96, so that kept us going for a while. And I guess we caught the fish on maybe the second or third day of our tournament, And I about all I can remember sitting there waiting the last day. Big Rock then was a little teeny trailer in the parking lot. And I was in there, I believe it had been, I know Randy was there, it might have been Crystal. I think Crystal was with him by then.
Yeah, she was still fairly new.
Yeah, she'd been new and sitting there, and I remember a creature from up the beach hooked up right there at the last minute, and I said, oh gosh.
What's that waiting to see what they're coming in with?
I remember them coming on the radio that they released a fish or lost a fish or something. I remember that distinctively.
What did it feel like to be able to back into that crowd with that fish at that point?
It was back then. I was numb. Really did not have. I mean, I've been doing it some, but just the graphs of just how big the fish was going to be.
Right.
I remember getting a fish that we actually did not have a tuna door. I remember trying to load the fish.
You had to bring it over the side.
Bring over the side.
Wow.
We had a super good mate, Stuart Wild, who's unfortunately not with us any longer, but he was a big boy.
I was going to say, you had to have some muscle for that.
Yeah, and he was going to get it over the side come hell or high water. So
that's not a small fish to do that with either.
No, it's not.
Wow, how about that? You talk about what it's like to come in on day one or any time before the last day and have to sit there and chew your fingernails and wait and listen to that radio, and all you're wanting to hear is Randy say, all clear, lines out of the water, congratulations.
Yeah.
That's a big moment there.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
And of course, you finished third then again in 2006, just a few years later.
Yeah, we was sort of on the other side of it that day. That fish, I actually remember that a little bit better. We caught that fish, oh gosh, I think it was 45 minutes to go on our last day of fishing.
Wow.
We hooked up anyway, 45 minutes.
You're talking about at this 1:15 or something like that in the afternoon, okay.
And I want to say we needed, to finish in the money, we needed 500 pounds. And I believe she was 503, 506.
And that's on this boat here that you've got, this third one. Yeah, okay.
And that was pretty cool. I mean, and that was because that was a very slow tournament for us. We had not seen a fish all week. And I remember being on the day, just looking at my charter, saying, let's get the day over with, get this in the bag. It's not been our week. But, like that, it went from that to, we was at the awards banquet that night.
Suddenly you're there on stage. Yeah, you have to keep pushing forward in the tournament like this. Can't get discouraged because plenty of people, they catch that big fish on that last day. And we've had boats come in and catch a smaller fish and maybe place 6th or 7th and then come back and get a first place fish or a second place fish.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, that's really, the more you do a tournament, you realize it is, you always say it's never over, but it really, in this tournament, it never is.
Yeah.
It never, I mean, really, the lines, I mean, it takes one hookup with 1 minute to go that can change the whole week.
now I'm curious, that 600-pounder you got, is that the biggest one that you've gotten so far?
It's the biggest one I've killed and weighed. I've caught,
Okay.
I've caught bigger marlin and released.
Sure. Yeah, I've heard from a few captains that there's been some fish that you would have liked to have known how much it weighed. Maybe one day we'll have like a little weighted bag or something you could slip under a release fish just to kind of see what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, do like a bass.
How about some fish? Any big ones that got away from you over the years?
Yeah, quite a few.
That's the nature of the game, right?
Yeah, I remember one fish in particular. I think we still had I know we had the 34-foot boat during Big Rock, and it was the first big fish I ever seen hooked. And we had a crew. We had a malfunction on the reel. Looking back, it was an inexperience.
Oh yeah.
Then we were building the boat that we're on now. I was running a boat called the Propagator, and that would have been maybe 01 or 02. And we fought a fish for about 5 hours. And I don't know, we were maybe 30 seconds away from putting a gaff in it, and the leader broke. We have it on video. It was a tremendously big fish. It was the year Adrian won the tournament with there was only one qualifying fish caught. So he finished first, second, third, basically on the money, And I'm not saying our fish would have beat his fish, but we had qualifying fish.
Felt like it, yeah, right.
We'd been. I'm gonna say I know daggone well we've been second. They still have. We got an old VHS tape of that, and
wow.
I watched it one time, and I run into the crowd every once in a while, and they want me. They always say if I want to copy that tape. I'm like, no, I've seen it twice now.
That's all I need.
I don't need it.
I still see it in my dreams. No.
Yeah, and that was probably my most heartbreaking
What year was that?
deal. I think it was 01. It had been the year.
That's right. You're right. Adrian won
Yeah,
the second one in 01. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, when you bring in that 600-pounder or the one that finishes third, what's that ride in back? Because that's a long ride. What's the talk like amongst the crowd when you're coming in?
It can be either way. I mean, that year was real exciting. I mean, we did not know we had third place, but it was the last day. We had nothing to lose. Last couple of years, I've had a couple really rides in. That one year I had a fish that ended up being a little bit light, and had another fish that was, I think 7 pounds from being the first 500-pound fish.
Oh man.
And
You're talking about that fabulous fisherman's prize, where
I mean
yeah.
those were both, especially the one that came up. I don't know what she was, 487, maybe it's 13 pounds light for being 500 pounds.
Yeah, right.
That was an exciting ride in. We would measure, we got 500, we got 480, then they strung it up and we were 10 pounds on a 500-pound fish is not much. But we did, that was, the only thing special about that, I think, this year, Michael Jordan weighed a fish in before, and we knocked him down.
You got
the only
beat.
time I'll ever beat that.
Yeah, of course. I bet it's a little different being up on the bridge where you're kind of focusing on getting back home, and everyone downstairs is shooting or throwing numbers around and dreaming about what there is to
what
do.
could have been.
Already spending the money, right?
I
that's
learned
right.
a long time ago. Do not spend the money till you got it, because I've had too many heartbreaks.
Right.
I don't know. I've heard football players tell me, I don't know. You remember the ones you lose? I think more than I can vividly remember those. Probably more than the days we finished in the money. Seems crazy.
No, you're not wrong. I mean, it's not just fishing. It's every athlete we've ever spoken to. They don't. If you ask them what's the memory that sticks out the strongest, it's not the wins. It's the ones that got away. Mm-hmm. Especially the ones where we talked to Curtis Strange just the other day, and you're talking about being in the Masters and being so close and it getting away, and that's the one that still sticks up there. Not the back-to-back U.S. Open wins, right?
Yeah. I remember thinking we lost that big fish on that smaller boat. I was always a big NASCAR fan. And I quoted always, I remember Darrell Waltrip before he won championship, said, you got to lose one before you win one.
Nice.
And I've always went by that deal. I really think, especially appreciate a win. But, I think there's a lot to be said about that.
Now, you said you grew up going down to Wrightsville Beach with your family and went offshore on a 25-footer, a little outboard?
My father would. After a while, we started towing 18-foot Starcraft out.
Okay.
That's before they had the rock jetty down there. God knows how we survived those days. But we chartered a boat. It was an old wooden Carolina boat. I mean, in my mind, it was 100-foot long.
That's right.
Yeah. It was probably a Harker's Island 25, 30-foot boat. We go catch Spanish. I just thought they would seeing that captain sitting up on the bridge. I said, man, that's the greatest thing in the world. Great job.
Now, do you remember? Would y'all go offshore with that?
No, in my mind, I remember going.
Right, but it felt offshore.
But I look at the pictures, we were catching Spanish mackerel.
Sure.
So we were not. And then looking back, boats back then were 10 knots. I mean, you were not made the Gulf Stream out of Wrightsville Beach.
No, certainly. But I'm curious, do you remember the first time going offshore and seeing your first billfish come up?
Oh, well, that would have been later on. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, that's a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
I mean, you go out there the first time and the water's crystal clear, and those are some big fish coming up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, in my later years, my father had a Grady White, and he retired and lived in Topsail Beach, and we would take the Grady White, and we'd started going to Ocracoke in it.
Yeah.
And that was our first real experience going to the Gulf Stream. Then I realized that's how I ended up on Harker's Island. We'd actually take the boat and spend a weekend or something at old Calico Jack's on Harker's Island and fish out of there. And actually that's where I got at that time, Randy Ramsey, Jim Luxton were running, Leonard Grigsby running charter boats out of Calico Jack's on Harker's Island. And that was my first experience of meeting and being around what we'd call real modern day charter boats.
That's right. And that's a whole community out there, and now you're a fixture of that. When you first came down, was it a little tough kind of getting into the crowd there?
Yeah, it was. I'd say that's putting it mildly. It was a very tough crowd to break into. I mean, I remember my first time when I finally decided to get serious about it. Captain Ben Green told me I needed to move to Captain Stacy's Fishing Center. I went up to Sonny Donor and asked him where Sonny was, and that was the introduction of, you got to be thick-skinned.
Sure.
But after a while, I become real good friends with Sonny and Maurice Davis, and once you get into it's a great community to be involved in. And ever since then, my family, we're all one big family. I mean, we get in fights with each other and stuff, but we all take care of each other. Yeah. And we all probably know more about each other's kids and what's going on. You once you become part of the community, you have a lot of respect, and
it's home now.
Good life.
Yeah.
Well, year 1 and year 30, I imagine the differences in being a charter boat captain and technology and all of that goes into it is night and day from when you started.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's been, and it's just like everything else. The last 5 or 10 years, it's just been exponentially. It's unbelievable how quick it's changing now. I mean, when I first started this, we did have a RAN. We did not have GPS. You actually had to use a compass to get out back. And I've learned over the years, every time something would change, the rules changed to J hooks to circle hooks. First year I'd fight it and be mad about it. But then it's coming to time. It's like now with the Omni sonar. It's changed the game probably more than anything else has in the last 20 years. And right now we do not have one, but it's just, you got to accept it. It's not going away, and 10 years from now it's going to be something else. And
it will be. Yeah, I mean, we talked to Brent. I had never heard of the Seakeeper before.
Yeah.
I mean, that's incrable. It's a huge advantage. I don't want to say advantage, but it's definitely a huge convenience to have out there.
Yeah, it is.
What about, obviously with all this technology, do you still feel like having the knowledge that you have of local waters, does that still play a big role?
Mm-hmm, it does. No, I mean, that's one thing. I've always looked at Big Rock almost like from a coach's thought. I always felt like I'd try to take advantage of home field advantage. I mean, I would know fellas that would fish from here, fish Big Rock. They'd say, well, I'm going to stay in Hatteras, and sometimes makes sense. It's a shorter run, good fishing up there. But I said, I'm going to stick down here. I know this ocean feel like I do, and if some days there's really nothing to fish on, I feel like I maybe know a better place to go than others that I've had success. At least I feel like I'm going to have success. I mean, I feel like you have to have confidence in yourself, confidence in your mate, crew, your lures. I think a lot of it's psychological, even though maybe it comes down to the luck of the draw. You get a bite, but.
Well, you mentioned it right there, the luck that goes into it. You can have all the technology, but once that teaser hits, you better know what you're doing. You better have a little bit of luck to go with it.
Yeah, and that's the same like with technology now. Now that more and more boats are getting Omni, the more advanced stuff, the better fishermen are raising above the other fishermen. It's just right now we're sort of in a period to half the boats have them, half the boats don't. People who don't have them on a big disadvantage. Hope down the road everybody's going to have one, and I feel like you'll see it evolve back to the better. Everybody's going to have one, and the better fishermen are going to be back on top, and that's what will happening now. I know you had my buddy Brent Gaskell here, and he's as I'll call him young. He's not young anymore, but he's as good as a natural fisherman as I've ever seen. I've been around this stuff a long time. And he has the boat, the backing, and the equipment now. And his record is just unbelievable what he does.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting talking to him how he didn't really have a whole lot of mating experience or anything like that. Did you, when you first came here, did you start mating for somebody?
No. I've always. Wow. I bought my own boat. I don't think anybody would have hired me. So I bought it, but I've been running a boat since I was like 14. I've always had boats.
So that the Dancin Outlaw is yours.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, it was. The first three I had all three of them. I sold the Dancin Outlaw to a fellow about 10 years ago.
Gotcha. Okay. Now you captain for them.
I captain for
them. Okay.
Yeah.
And 30 years later, you still enjoy being out there?
I do. I enjoy it. It's funny. I guess I started thinking, well, I'm going to do something else after this. Probably not.
Well, it's like
I can't imagine ever quitting.
This is what
I'm
you do,
slowing
right?
way down, but I mean, as long as I'm healthy enough to do, I want to be involved somehow on a boat.
Yeah. We talked about the changes in the tournament or in the technology, but I'm curious about the tournament too. I mean, just the last 5 years. Mm-hmm. I've been covering this for 10 years, and moving from the old way station to the new one, going from maybe 200 boats, you'd be absolutely excited, and now it's almost 300. Mm-hmm. And the KWLA has also grown astronomically, the purse and everything. Did you ever expect the Big Rock to be where it is today?
No, I'm not. No, I don't think anybody could have dreamed of it growing as big as it was. And that's one thing that's been really cool. I certainly was not in it on the beginning, but 30 years ago, it was still a local tournament. Of course, y'all covered, the paper covered it and stuff, but I do remember the year that Curtis Strange got on the board. That was really big news. So I was sort of somewhat of a celebrity.
But it wasn't all the TV crew and all that stuff. Right.
Then just all of a sudden it just started, I think, with the internet. Mm-hmm. And I remember the first year as $1 million purse. It's just ESPN picked it up. I think Curtis might have had a little bit to do with that. Then it's just exploded. Yeah. And to see the people that's worked hard, I mean, I don't think they get nearly as much appreciation as they deserve. And the Del Britts. I don't want to mention names because I'll forget too many of them.
That's right. There's a lot of them out there.
Well, the money and the stuff they have selfishly put in this community is just unbelievable. I mean, I remember Crystal selling, they would sell T-shirts up top of the old place, Mm-hmm. Then they moved to the new store, and it's become just a big success on its own. And my wife and I have friends and cousins all over the country that all listen to it on the internet, and it's just you get away from hearing people talk about it. You realize just how daggone big it is.
Yeah. It's definitely
now with Michael Jordan and. Just everything is it's been really, really great to see it grow into what it's grown to.
You think it'll continue at this rate or the next decade or something?
Hard
to feel like it.
It's hard to feel like it can get any bigger, but I'm sure 10 years ago I'd have said the same thing.
Sure.
Right now, I believe it probably would be bigger if there's more dock spaces.
That's what we hear.
Yeah, I mean, they're limited now, which is a heck of a problem to have. I mean, they have room for X amount of boats, and now all are here. But I mean, I think if we had 500 slips, we'd have 500 boats in it. The more money it costs to get in it, the more boats that enter it. It's just like it defies gravity. I mean, it's just like,
right.
It just.
I mean, they got folks coming in from, like you said, Hatteras. They got folks coming in from Oak Island, and I think
those boats now coming in right now from Texas. I mean, I've seen a lot. I don't even going back to the Pandemic. A lot of places did not have. You couldn't travel to Bermuda, and all of a sudden boats that normally went to Mexico and Dominican Republic, they were all closed. So I guess they want something. They came here, and that was the first year. I think that sort of made people come here and had a really good time. And I think even more and more now travel here. I've seen 2 or 3 boats from Texas pull into the Gulf docks just this past week. I'm sure.
Yeah, I think it was Chase and A last year. Is that the one that's from? No, that's the Virginia boat. There was a Texas boat. Can't remember the name. I think he finished third.
I thought everybody knew where we were, but it felt like the pandemic, we really got discovered.
Yeah, I think sitting at home and watching it on there is it just.
Well, and then you had Top Dog the year before having caught a big one, and then everybody comes in the pandemic, and it's got to there's fish here, and the tournament is well run, and people who come here say that it feels different than the other tournaments they fish.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a real welcoming community. We have a real good inlet. You don't have to hold your breath going out the inlet in the morning. And like I say, I mean, we got the infrastructure here. We got the hotels. It's a nice, and I'm amazed too, the people I come into, they come here for the week to watch it. They have no connection to any boats. And I'll talk to them behind the boat, and they say, well, we come down here every year for the week.
How about that?
The weigh-in, the excitement, the parties.
We take it for granted because we see it every year.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
it's one of the most exciting things to have a fish get hoisted up. I mean, it's huge.
Zach mentioned we've got the fish. Have you noticed in the last few years, it feels like every year leading up to the tournament, it's hot. Fishing is hot. Yeah. Does it feel like it's different now than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago?
Yeah, definitely. Marlin fishing has, knock on wood, improved over the last, I'd say, 5 years a lot. We had last 3 or 4 springs, we have had just world-class bill fishing out here. I mean, just as good as there is anywhere. We have boats just in the past week. I know March Madness has caught, I don't know, he's got double figures, but he's got 5, 6 blue marlin a day. Lee on the Carteret caught 5 or 6 one day.
Yeah,
and that's unheard of numbers on the East Coast. I mean, and these are big fish. This is not like some places have big numbers and they're all 150-pound fish.
That's right.
Some of these are, not all of them, some of them are regular, but
sure.
There's some 400 and 500-pound fish stuck in with that number.
Is there a theory among the captains what the difference is?
There's some theories. I think it's a combination. I think technology has led some of it. More boats fishing for billfish is some of it. But I just think the population is healthy. I like to think everywhere. I know it's healthy off of here. I don't think we've ever had those numbers before. Sail fishing last year out of here.
It was incredible.
It was
unlike anything ever before.
Yeah, we did not fish nearly the days I used to. I think we fished maybe 50 days last year, and I think we had 87, 89 billfish release.
Wow.
And in years past, man, I'd fish 150 days and maybe have 15 or 20.
Oh, wow.
And be very happy.
How about that?
Does it feel? I mean, it's got to feel.
No, it's a different. I mean, it's not a little bit better. It's just out of this world.
Yeah.
That's got to make it more fun.
It does. Yeah, it does. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
More reward for your time out there.
For happier parties.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and it just makes you more motivated. You really feel like you got a chance to catch one every day.
Absolutely.
I mean, not every day is great, but there's enough great days mixed in there to let you forget about the bad ones.
Are we a superstitious person? Do we have any superstitions?
Not really. I used to have a few. I used to have a lucky pole that won a lot of money for me, and my superstition was it. I would never tell anybody which one it was. And it just, because that way it'd be randomly placed, And I actually loaned the pole, the rod and reel, to a guy one time, and he won the Wrightsville Beach tournament.
Oh, wow. That pole was hot, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I still have the pole. Which
He said, I'm going to need that back.
Yeah, but after a while, you forget and lose and stuff. So I'm not a real superstitious person.
Well, great. Well, of course, we wish you best of luck in all the tight lines next week. I hope to see you back into the weigh station, and I think it's going to be a great tournament.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here, Thomas.
All right.